This is going to be a really interesting event for many of you. I look forward to sharing a lot of new ideas with you. And, you know, sit back, relax, hear a lot of what I think is going to be some new content for you. And enjoy the fact that there is no magic one way to get your next job. But I can tell you one great way to shorten your next job search is by embracing a marketing approach to what you're doing. So we're going to talk a lot about the magic of marketing and why it represents 90% of the job search. Very powerful, great way to create visibility and credibility for your background. And the fact is there are so many people applying to some of these outstanding jobs. You've got to find ways to stand out. So I'm going to share with you a number of the things that you can do, but I'm going to try to break this down into an easy to understand way of things that you yourself can implement if you take advantage of the fact that you can all become marketers. And I tell people 90% of the job search is marketing and 90% of the marketing is messaging. Your ability to write and communicate is so critical to any kind of a job search. So before we get into, all of the details and all the content that I'm going to be sharing with you, let me just share with you a bit of big news. A few weeks ago, my organization, the North Shore Executive Networking Group, passed the 10,000 member mark. Now, this is an organization I started about 13 years ago, pulled together a small number of people who, like myself at that time, were in a job search. And I never dreamt that a group of 6 would grow into something so big and so significant. It's the largest job search group in the United States. But more importantly, we have a tremendous number of people that are landing new jobs every week. We've been averaging at least one person landing a job every day for the last 6 years. And this is a real testament to the fact that I think a lot of people have embraced some of the rather unusual or more unorthodox approaches to a job search, because it's real easy to go online and answer ads and hit submit and hope for the best. And I tell people, if that's what your approach is, then you are surrendering to those 100 to 1 odds. So please take note of what you begin to hear with us today. And there's a real good reason why this group has grown to be as big as it has, is because I'm not here to tell you what you want to hear. I'm here to tell you what you need to hear. And that's what this presentation and everything else that I do is about. So let me just share a couple other things here with you before we get into the presentation itself. One is that, all of the membership, everything that comes with our website is absolutely free. I urge you to take advantage of this. You're going to get access to all of our members. You'll get access to 3 webinar recordings right up front, and the ability to, to interact with a lot of great people in this group. I've got a full portfolio of 17 webinar recordings and 3 workshop recordings. The webinars are an hour and a half each. The workshops are 3 hours each. These are available. I do all my sessions live, but I do record all of them so that people who can't attend, just like this session today, can always go back and listen to the recording. And so these are all available on the website, nsenginc.com. If you have not yet joined our LinkedIn group, I urge you to do so. It's a great place to network with other members. It's a great place to see some of the advertisers that are promoting their jobs on this site. We've had a number of people land jobs because of positions that have been visible on our LinkedIn group. This is our next upcoming event. I'm going to be conducting on Wednesday, February 15th, a 3-hour online workshop. It's going to be all about LinkedIn, maximizing the value of that LinkedIn platform, because the average job seeker probably uses less than 40% of what LinkedIn can deliver for them. I'm going to take the first portion of the presentation and talk about how to optimize, more importantly, how to search engine optimize your LinkedIn profile, because that's how you get found, among other things. The outbound marketing aspects is, of course, another powerful tool. The second portion of the 3-hour session will be about how to really leverage the platform, How do you find more target companies by industry, by geographic like location, how do you find people that are in the positions of power to make decisions? They're all out there on LinkedIn, but so many people don't know how to use the advanced tools. And so we're going to be talking about some of the lesser known aspects of LinkedIn during this session. So, interesting piece of information that I want to share about marketing and its power. That on average, about 60% of a company's buying decision to purchase a product or service takes place before they ever even talk with a salesperson. Think about that. We all think about sales as being a salesperson in the face, in the presence of a customer, and that it starts from day one. But I got news for you. It doesn't. From day one, it's all about marketing. And this is a very typical sales funnel. How do you create that awareness? How do you create potential engagement and interest on the part of that potential customer or prospect? How do you get them to consider your product amongst the many others that might be out there? That is about a 60% portion of the sales funnel, during which time most customers have never even talked with a salesperson. They've gone to the company's website to explore their product. Maybe they've gotten an email campaign that is promoting, some of the products or services of the company. Maybe they've seen some things posted on social media about the products or services. But in most cases, more than half of that customer's experience is being handled by marketing and not by a true salesperson standing or sitting in front of them. It's really down at the very bottom, once the company has decided or shortlisted a small group of companies for them to consider for the product or products that they want to buy. And that's where the salesperson comes in and plays an extremely valuable role, because they now are able to get into greater detail what the customer has already gotten on their own by doing their own homework on the various products or services that they're considering. The same concept is true for somebody in a job search. The job seeker has to do everything that any new product being launched into the marketplace would normally have to do. And these are just a few examples, and we're going to touch on some of these today. You should be using your email as a way to target individuals. You can network with people to get greater visibility and to get introductions into companies that you otherwise can't get into on your own. You want to be using LinkedIn, of course. Twitter and other social media platforms can be very helpful. But I got to tell you, this one right here, LinkedIn, is absolutely far and away the best platform to find more companies, to find the key people in those companies, and to filter by geography, by industry, by company size. It enables you to get very targeted in who or what you're going after. Creating interest, positioning, and your value proposition. And we're going to talk about both of those. You can measure your achievements, because we've all have had jobs where we've had some level of measurability. And I recognize not every job is as measurable as others, but you can talk about your impact. You can have case studies about what you did and what that before and after picture looks like when you were on the job. And of course, down at the very bottom is where the interviewing aspect and your ability to interview well comes into play here. And these are all marketing attributes. Let's get into it a little bit more specific. And these are 6 key things that I think anybody in a job search has got to be able to do extremely well. And every one of them is a marketing initiative, because you need to think of yourself as a new product launch. And what do we do for new product launches? Well, we figure out, how is that product positioned? How do we package it? What's the messaging behind that product that we're trying to bring into the marketplace? How do we promote it? And then how do we persuade either companies or individual consumers to buy our product? You are now going to be doing this on behalf of yourself if you aren't doing it already, because the only difference between a new product launch and a job seeker is that you are now that new product, and we've got to create the visibility for you. So this is what, in large part, a lot of my job search coaching is all about. You've got to be able to position yourself Well, how do you position yourself? Your personal branding statement is going to be a big player in this. And we're going to dig into every one of these. You've got to be able to package yourself. That's where your value proposition, that section that sits right under your contact information on your resume. It sits in the about section of your LinkedIn profile. It's the cliff notes. For those of you that grew up in a university environment where you didn't want to read those really thick textbooks, the cliff notes were the answer, right? It was a way to get around the system. Well, that's essentially what the value proposition is. How do we, in very few words, describe your background, your value? Number 3, the messaging. And messaging is done in many different aspects of your job search. It's going to be in the way that you communicate your value in your resume, in your LinkedIn profile, email cover letters, and I've got a long list of things that I want to share with you on that. And of course, your elevator pitch. Targeting is a huge part of it, because in any job search, you're not just looking to communicate with any company. The more targeted you can be, the more you're going to be able to connect value you bring to that company who may be looking to fill a position. And that targeting's got to speak to companies, and eventually you got to be talking to individuals. Well, who are those right individuals? Number 5, promoting. You've got to have a direct marketing engine behind your efforts. There are not people sitting out there waiting for you to just make your presence known. You've got to be very active. You've got to be very proactive and have a campaign behind what you're doing. And of course, when you get into that interview stage, you've got to be very, very persuasive. We'll talk a bit about that. And we're going to break down each one of these. So let's really start with the first one. You're going to see in the upper left-hand corner of the slide exactly which of the 6 topics we're talking about. So the first one is about positioning, and specifically personal branding. And personal branding is so important. We've seen it with products out there, okay? Every product tends to have a slogan or some memorable line that you recall about that product. Same is true of you. And the reason why personal branding is so important is because it tells people in very few words. It might be only 5 or 6 words, but it describes what you stand for. It can describe your unique competence or unique competencies. It may speak to key accomplishments or a key accomplishment in your background. It enhances your online presence, and it enables your network to help you, because you've got to make yourself memorable. And one of the things that a branding statement does is it enables people to remember you. And we're going to talk about a few examples of things that have helped some people that I've coached to make themselves more memorable, because you're going to be talking with a lot of people when you're networking. Not everybody's going to remember you, but if they have that tagline that's associated with you and your background, the chances go up dramatically that they're going to recall you as they start to talk about you to other people. It really distinguishes you versus your competition, other people that are interested in the same kinds of roles as you, because you've got to stand out. That's what creates the credibility, but most importantly, in this case, the visibility that you want. So a personal branding statement, okay? Well, what can it look like? Well, it can come in a lot of different ways, okay? Now, for a marketing person or somebody who's in social media, it might be half geek, half marketing, 100% social media, okay? In a very few words, it describes what distinguishes this person, okay? The fact that they've got some technical background, that they've got the marketing foundation, and the combination of those things makes them truly an expert, potentially, at social media. For project management, entirely different approach, orchestrating cross-departmental efforts into profitable initiatives. For somebody in sales, maybe you're going after smaller mid-sized companies. You might be a sales hunter who brings big deals to small companies. Coming up with something catchy can help make you a little bit more memorable. And for process improvement that leads to profit improvement. Nothing magical about what we've done here and some of the things that I've helped some job seekers with, but we've got to come up with some punch that enables you to have a leave behind memorable statement that people won't forget. Number 2, this is about packaging now. Well, the way we package our backgrounds is condensed down to a value proposition summary. It's that section that sits at the top of your resume. It's going to be between 70 and 100 words that summarizes key attributes in your background. what you're all about. Now, I grew up as an advertising copywriter. I'm a pretty critical writer. And so the fact is that one of the most important aspects of good advertising writing is your ability to say all the right things in the fewest words possible, which, by the way, is just the opposite of a LinkedIn profile, which is about more is more. How do I get more and more of the right keywords in there, repeating time and time again so that I can rank high enough to get a potential interview? But when it comes to a resume, it's all about less is more. So you got to say the right things without getting too exhaustively long. What is it that makes you different and better than other candidates? Because you know what? Companies don't tend to hire Me Too players. We aren't looking for a C player. We're looking for an A player that we can afford. And by all means, in your resume, I could give you a laundry list of all kinds of words you absolutely need to avoid because they add absolutely no value. Here are just a few. I'm an extremely motivated, results-oriented individual who's passionate about the healthcare industry. I get really focused and energetic about becoming a team player because I'm very driven. These don't add any value. And I don't care that they may show up in a job description. They are not the important words. And when I read resumes that have words like this, and there are many more, it tells me that you are at a loss. You are absolutely at a loss to differentiate yourself in the marketplace because anybody can say these. We'll show you some examples on some things that help differentiate people. Here's an example of an individual that I worked with on their value proposition. It didn't look like this at first, but I've highlighted in blue a few example phrases that are much more in line with what I'm talking about because you've got to stand out. You got to create that differentiation. Notice some of the words here, okay? Production operations, customer service, P&L management, and strategic planning. A President's Club Award winner, sales prospecting, new customer acquisition, upselling, scalable direct sales and service teams, merger acquisitions, and Six Sigma and other things. You've got to get more specific when you're talking about yourself because these are the kinds of keywords that are going to hold a lot more weight. And in every single job description, there are key requirements that are going to be a lot more important to the reader and to the hiring person than being loyal and energetic and a team player. So keep this in mind as you start to build out your own resume. So now let's talk about messaging. The first piece of messaging being the resume. Okay, so here's an example resume. This is an old resume of mine, but I just want to share this with you by way of example. Okay, got a branding statement up at the top here. Okay, marketing initiatives that drive sales growth. Okay, and then I've highlighted some of the keywords in here that were key components of jobs that I was going after. Now, in my case, I was going after a lot of VP of marketing and chief marketing roles, but it could be the same for any job, whether it's finance, operations, sales, HR. There are going to be key requirements, and they need to be coming through in your LinkedIn profile and in your resume. And then when you get to the, further into your resume, now you're getting into your experience. And I've seen resumes where people take 3/4 of the page before they ever even get to their most recent job. And that's just a huge mistake. You want to make sure you've got the name of the company, your title, have a brief descriptor of the company, and then key achievements. It could be 3 bullet points, could be 5, but typically you want to put in there the things that describe your accomplishments. Don't let it read like a job description. I had responsibility for this, I had responsibility for that, and then I did this. That doesn't convey the value. The value is the reader being able to look at what you did and then be able to translate that into saying, you know what, if she did it there, she could certainly do that here. These are the things that resonate and what readers like to see. Part 2 of this, of messaging, your LinkedIn profile and search engine optimization. You want to have a great, photograph, but you want to have a very strong headline and a great banner. That banner can make a huge differentiation between you and other people. And you can make your own banners. It's one of the great things I love about LinkedIn is where you can get a bit creative here because those 2 areas, your photo and your banner, are the most visible places. These are just a few examples of what some of the folks in NSE&G have done with their LinkedIn profiles, but you can see that they're communicating and have a lot of the right keywords associated with the roles that they were looking for at that point in time, because that photo and a strong banner create a great first impression, but it also enables the reader to answer the question, should I bother reading on? So you want to get the right keywords, and you want to get that great first impression through your photo and your banner up front. The third part of messaging is the email cover letter. And I can tell you, I have a lot of job seekers out there that will tell you, don't need to write email cover letters. And you'll even get some recruiters who will say, we don't read them. Let me tell you who's reading them. Hiring managers. Recent study in Resume Labs done last year, they surveyed several thousand people and found that only about 38% of job seekers actually wrote cover letters, but 83% of hiring managers said they want to see them. Why? Because it creates a great first impression, and it shows your ability to write, your ability to communicate. But here's why it should be important to you. It can do what a resume and a LinkedIn profile can't do. It cuts to the chase. In very few words, it connects the dots between key achievements in your background and key requirements of that job. And most importantly, it enables you to control the story, because there's just so much content to read in a resume and a LinkedIn profile. But in a cover letter, you decide how much you want to share. It can also get forwarded to many other people inside the company and maybe to people outside the company, because they may not have a job that's appropriate for you right now, but they may know somebody who works at another company who would take an interest in your background. It also demonstrates that you have a genuine interest in this company, that you're proactive, you've taken the initiative. It enables you to stand out because so many other job seekers aren't writing them. It's a door opener, okay? It's a huge door opener. And it enables your network to help you, because now you've given your network an email that they can put a one-liner on top of it and put it out there to somebody in their network who they'd like to introduce you to. Enabling your network to help you is so important to the job search, and too many people don't use the email as a way to make that happen. Here's good news. I have developed a way to write highly customized cover letters in less than 15 minutes. And I can tell you, I get pushback from people who say, the reason I don't write them is because it takes me 2 to 3 hours to write one, because it's got to be so tailored to every single company. And my answer to that is you're using the wrong approach. You're welcome to go take a look at this hour and a half webinar recording I've done on, resumes tell, but cover letters sell. I can't say enough about the approach, because it enables you to have both speed and customization overlapping, because typically you've got to choose one or the other. Through this approach, you can get them both in one package. And the fourth piece of messaging is really your elevator pitch, because so many times you're going to be asked, whether it's in a networking meeting or in an interview, at the beginning of an interview, can you just tell me a little bit about yourself? And I hear a lot of people struggling with answering this question. And it's a simple question, right? But the fact is that there are so many ways for you to package yourself. And that's why we go back to that value proposition and think about 1 or 2 stories that you might want to tell during this 45 or 60 seconds that you've got to capture the interest of the person who's listening to you. Rehearse it. And you can on Zoom. It's one of the great things about Zoom is you can record yourself, time yourself, and then listen to how you sound. Once you play that recording back, you might be a bit surprised that maybe your response isn't quite as interesting and as exciting as you thought. But the good news is everything can be changed and can be improved. And so I urge you to take advantage of that. The fourth item is all about targeting. A big part of effective marketing is target marketing. Who are the companies you want to go after? In what industries? And who are the people in those industries? And this is just a small example. I spent many years with Motorola. I grew up in the wireless industry after I left the advertising world. And there's many subcategories within even the wireless industry. And what you want to do for every one of these categories is map out all the companies. So you start at the industry level. who are all the companies within those industries, and who are the 4, 5, 6, or 7 key people in every one of those companies that I want to be messaging to, because I'm going to develop a direct marketing campaign to make them all aware of me, whether they have a job or not. You decide who the targeted individuals are. If you're at a director or VP level, you may want to be targeting the VP and C-level people. If you're a single contributor, you may want to be targeting people at the manager and director level. But you don't want to be only messaging people that are in the discipline or functional responsibility where you reside, because then you're putting all your eggs into one basket. So in this example, if you were going after a marketing position, it's one thing to communicate with the VP of marketing, but I would communicate directly to their peers and to their superiors, because you just got to get one person to do the right thing, and that's to take your great email and send it on to the right person. And that oftentimes gets interviews in a way that, quite honestly, many of you maybe are being eliminated by the ATS, by the applicant tracking system. And I've coached so many people who've been rejected by a job because they applied online, got rejected within 15 or 20 seconds, 15 or 20 minutes by an ATS, and have still been able to get them interviews because we go around the system, we get to the right people. This is an approach that you've got to map out, because now you're going to build up a database of folks that you're going after. Okay, so now that we've done the branding, we've got the value proposition summary, we've put together our messaging, the resume, the LinkedIn profile, the email cover letter. We know who we are going to target because we've developed this significant database by industry and by company and by key role within the company. How do I get that direct mail campaign going out now? Okay, and in fact, it's a direct email campaign that you're going to be getting out there as one component of your marketing effort. But there's more to marketing than email. You could be posting things on LinkedIn, create visibility for yourself, get people coming back and looking at your profile. You want that. But keep in mind, the key, center points of this is that you got to have that value proposition, the resume, the LinkedIn profile, the target audiences, and the target list of people. And then from there, you start to go to the outer shell here, which are all the ways in which you can get the word out to these people, whether you're posting things on social media, whether you're sending out emails to all these individuals. Maybe, you're willing to take some chances and do some things with video. Okay. And I can tell you, video is very powerful. The very first video that I did was on my trademark What the Hell approach to job search. I did it, in about 2.5, 3 minutes, which is a bit too long. You can say great stuff in really 60 seconds. But when I posted it out there, I put it out onto about 42 different LinkedIn groups. And within 1 week, I had over 10,000 people that had viewed my video. It was different. It was about a topic that people had never connected with job search, because the message behind it was, what the hell do you have to lose by doing things that other job seekers aren't doing? Some people found it entertaining, but a lot of people found it very thought-provoking, because I said the job search is about differentiation, creating value, doing things that make you stand out. And hey, by the way, I've created 13 what the hell moves that will help you stand out from a crowd of many qualified candidates. And here's how it works, And so you can say a lot in a very short period of time, but you want to capture interest. And that's why videos can be so powerful. Joining associations and other kinds of groups. And by all means, don't ignore why this product was first invented. I worked at Motorola when we created the cell phone. And I got to tell you, the reason we created it was for voice communication. And there is no easier way to reach hiring managers than to make phone calls, because so many of them are still working from home. They're tethered to their laptops. They've got their cell phone sitting right next to them. And so when you call into the main number, you may be going into, a voice response system that asks you to insert the first 3 letters of the person's last name. And lo and behold, it potentially gets forwarded right to their cell phone. So they don't have near the interruptions that they used to, because there's not all that, that congregating in an office environment. So by all means, don't be afraid to make phone calls, particularly in follow-up to emails that you may have put out there. And the sixth point, the act of persuading. We all need to become salespeople and strong marketers. And our ability to persuade people in our favor is so important to the job search. But it starts with preparation and practicing, because you are center stage here. Okay. You are the person that they want to hear about, and you are the individual that they're going to want to know, why should I be talking to this person when I've got a lot of other people I could be spending some time with? It's your opportunity to create a great first impressions. And I can tell you, having interviewed a lot of folks, if I wasn't impressed in the first few minutes, it was really hard to turn my impression around in a more positive way. You got to be able to answer that question. Can you just tell me a little bit about yourself? But so important in a good interview is storytelling. You got to be able to connect the dots between key things that you've done in your background that are important to the requirements of the job. And I'll tell you, one of the most important questions to ask during an interview is before the interview even starts. Before the interview even starts, absolutely. Don't be afraid to ask the interviewer, particularly if it's your future boss or their boss or one of their peers. Before we get started, would you mind if I ask a quick question? More times than not, they'll say, sure. Great. Can you tell me, what are the 3 most critical things that the individual moving into this role needs to accomplish in the first 12 months? When they give you that answer, you've now got the answers to the test. And you can pivot back to those 3 things throughout your interview to drive home the fact that, when it comes to those 3 things, I'm extremely strong. Now, number 5 is an interesting one. I do an hour-and-a-half recording on age discrimination and how job seekers can overcome it. The fact is, I'm sure that many of you here that are over the age of 45 or 50 have probably received the comment, I'm sorry, but you're overqualified. And in some cases you are. But in just as many cases, it's not because of your qualifications. It's because you're probably 10 or 15 years older than other people that they're considering, and they think you're too old for the job. You've really got to play from your strong suit, and it's the experience that you've been through. You've been through things that a younger person hasn't. And number 6 is an important thing, connecting with that interviewer, whether it's on a phone screen, whether it's in Zoom, whether it's in person. There's homework you can do before you walk into an interview. And I share with people about an artificial intelligence product that's out there that's free, that enables you to get a personality assessment of anybody you're going to interview with, as long as they've got a profile on LinkedIn. And who doesn't? It's a great tool because it will tell you how they like to communicate, what drives them, what motivates them, what they're like as a potential worker. And of course, you should always go to any mutual connections you have in advance with the person or persons that you're going to be interviewing with, because these are people that know these folks. So if they're connected to you and they're connected to some of the people you're going to interview with, take advantage of that and ask them what they're like. And in some cases, they may know them extremely well. The last 2 items here are very closely tied together. Making yourself memorable, which of course you can do right at the onset with your branding statement, but making yourself likable, because the best person doesn't always get the job. Absolutely not. But the most likable person has a huge advantage over everybody else, because we like to hire people that we like. In many cases, we want to hire people that are just like me, right? We want to hire people that are like ourselves. And we want to know that, hey, is this somebody who I would enjoy working with? Somebody who I think would be easy to get along with the other members in the group. And so you've got to be sensitized to this. And of course, doing your homework on the interviewer in advance can give you an opportunity, to make yourself more likable, because you can find out some things about their background, what they do outside of the work environment, that you might be able to bring into the conversation at some point, where you might share some common interests. Maybe you both belong to a similar charitable cause. You may have supported kids through coaching. Maybe, there's some things that they've done in their free time that you would never find out about if you hadn't had that conversation with somebody who really knew them well. This is one reason why having a lot of LinkedIn connections is really important, because it gives you more opportunities to go out to people who may be connected to folks you really want to get to. That's the value of having a lot of connections. So let me just share with you, the fact is that there's just so many things that you can do when it comes to your job search. But as a quick reminder, before we part company here, write down February 15th. It's a great session. It's helped a lot of people land jobs because LinkedIn is a key part of any job seeker's search. And if you know how to use the platform well, it can make a huge difference in your success. If for any reason you could use some outside help, I do a great deal of job search coaching. I've got coaching packages that are available right on the website, nsenginc.com, and I do a lot of customized one-on-one coaching. It can be any number of things that you may feel that you need help with. If that's of interest to you, please feel free to email me at martygilbert1@gmail.com, and I'll set you up for a free exploratory conversation where we can talk about your job search and how I think I can help you. And by all means, take action. If you are not yet a member of NSENG, become one. It's free. There's absolutely no downside here. You're going to get access to all 10,000 plus members. You're going to get access to 3 webinar recordings from me. You're going to have all kinds of other resources that are available under the About section within the website that are a lot of TV and radio and podcast interviews that I've done, that I've providing my perspectives on job search on all different aspects of what it takes to succeed in job search, and a whole library of webinar and workshop recordings. The fact is that, I said early on, the key to any good job search is marketing. And don't let anybody make you think that this is an HR or a talent recruitment exercise. It's not. It's about standing out. It's about creating visibility. It's about creating that engagement and positioning and packaging and targeting your marketing effort. I realize that not everybody here has the marketing background. That's where your ability to at least share with somebody what makes you unique and different than others is an important part of your job search. So, I know that we didn't have time. If there may have been questions that had come in here, and there just isn't time given what we've got had to cover. But I appreciate your interest in wanting to be a part of this. And I hope that you'll join NSENG if you haven't already. And by all means, feel free to reach out to me at any point in time. All the best to you in your job search.